The worst decisions always start with someone saying, "It'll be fun tonight." That someone was my wife, Jenna, standing in our kitchen wearing a dress that cost more than my monthly car payment, arranging wine glasses like she was setting up for a royal wedding instead of another one of her insufferable dinner parties. "Alex, can you at least pretend you're excited?" she said, not looking up from her perfect little arrangement. "These are our friends." Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. Our friends, right? More like her collection of social climbing vultures who tolerated me because I came attached to Jenna's charm and our nice house in Riverside Heights. I was the IT guy who somehow landed the sales director, a fact that never failed to come up at these gatherings, usually followed by knowing smiles and comments about how lucky I was. "I'm thrilled," I muttered, opening another bottle of wine. "Nothing says Friday night like watching Jason Pierce hit on every woman in the room while pretending he's not." Jenna finally looked at me, her blue eyes flashing with that particular brand of irritation she reserved for when I wasn't playing my role as the grateful husband. "Jason's your best friend, or he was before you started acting like a jealous teenager." Best friend. We'd known each other since college, sure. But somewhere along the way, Jason had transformed from the guy who'd help you move furniture into the guy who'd help himself to your wife's attention. Not that I could say that without sounding like exactly what Jenna accused me of being, a jealous teenager. The doorbell rang, and Jenna's face immediately brightened into her hostess smile. "Showtime," she said, smoothing her dress. "Try to have some actual fun tonight, okay? For me?" The first to arrive were Mark and Sophie Henderson, our neighbors from 3 houses down. Mark was one of those guys who'd peaked in high school football and spent his 40s trying to recapture that glory through aggressive handshakes and loud opinions about everything. Sophie was his enabler, the kind of woman who laughed too hard at everyone's jokes and collected gossip like some people collected stamps. Alex, buddy. Mark's handshake was predictably crushing. "How's the tech world treating you?" "Can't complain," I said, which was a lie. I could complain plenty, but Mark's attention span for anything that wasn't about Mark was roughly 3 seconds. Sophie was already hugging Jenna like they were long-lost sisters, instead of neighbors who saw each other at the mailbox every day. "I love what you've done with the living room. Did you get that throw pillow from the place I told you about?" And so it began. The ritual dance of suburban social climbing, where every conversation was a performance and every compliment was a competition. I retreated to my usual spot by the kitchen island, close enough to participate but far enough away to maintain some sanity. Jason arrived 20 minutes later with Claire Morrison, his latest girlfriend. Claire was sweet enough, a kindergarten teacher with the kind of optimism that made me wonder what she was doing with Jason. He greeted everyone like he was running for mayor, all smiles and backslaps and casual touches that lingered just a little too long when he hugged Jenna. "Where's the guest of honor?" Jason asked, looking around. "Emma's running late," Jenna said. "Flight delays from Chicago. She should be here soon." Emma, Jenna's younger sister, visiting for the weekend. I'd met her a handful of times over the years. Family gatherings, holidays, brief visits that never lasted long enough for more than polite conversation. She was quieter than Jenna, more thoughtful, with the kind of intelligence that didn't need to announce itself. Her husband David was some kind of consultant who traveled constantly, leaving Emma to manage their life in Chicago, mostly alone. Tom Bradley arrived next, Jason's sidekick and fellow real estate agent. If Jason was the smooth-talking closer, Tom was the eager puppy who laughed at all his jokes and backed up all his stories. They came as a package deal, which meant any gathering with Jason automatically included Tom's running commentary on everything from sports to politics to which of our female friends had really blossomed since high school. By the time Emma finally arrived, we were 3 drinks in, and the conversation had already turned to the kind of gossip that made me remember why I preferred staying home. Emma looked tired from traveling, but smiled genuinely when she saw everyone. She hugged Jenna first, then made her way around the room with the kind of warm politeness that seemed effortless. When she got to me, her hug lasted just a moment longer than the others. "Alex, it's so good to see you. How are you holding up with this crowd?" "Surviving," I said, surprised by how much I meant it. "Can I get you a drink, please? Something strong?" I made her a gin and tonic, heavy on the gin, and we stood together for a moment, watching the others. Jenna was holding court by the fireplace, telling some story that had Mark and Tom hanging on every word. Jason was leaning against the wall nearby, his eyes fixed on Jenna with the kind of attention that made my jaw clench. "She's always been like that," Emma said quietly. "The center of everything." "It's her gift," I said, trying to keep the edge out of my voice. Emma glanced at me sideways. "Is it?" Before I could answer, Sophie clapped her hands together like she was calling a classroom to order. "Okay, everyone. Jenna promised us games tonight. Real games, not just sitting around talking about our boring lives." "I vote for Truth or Dare," Claire said, her cheeks already flushed from wine. "Like we're in college again." "Oh, God," I muttered. But Emma smiled. "Come on, Alex," she said. "It might be fun." Fun? There was that word again. We arranged ourselves in a circle on the living room floor like teenagers at a sleepover. Jenna naturally volunteered to go first. Sophie asked her the opening question. "Truth or dare?" "Dare," Jenna said without hesitation. "Always dare," Sophie grinned. "I dare you to tell us the most embarrassing thing that happened to you this week." "That's not a dare," Mark protested. "That's just truth with extra steps." "Fine," Sophie said. "I dare you to call your boss and tell him you're thinking about quitting." "It's 9 p.m. on a Friday," Jenna laughed. "He's not answering." The game continued around the circle, starting innocuous enough. Tom had to sing the chorus of his favorite song. Claire had to admit her celebrity crush. Mark chose truth and revealed he'd cried during a commercial for dog food the week before. When it got to Jason, he chose dare. And Jenna's eyes lit up with mischief. "I dare you," she said, "to show us your best pickup line on someone in this room." Jason's gaze swept the circle and landed on Emma. "Emma, did it hurt when you fell from heaven? Because you're the most beautiful thing I've seen all night." Emma laughed, but there was something uncomfortable in it. "That's terrible," she said. "The worst ones usually work," Jason said with a wink. When it was my turn, I chose truth. Mostly because I didn't trust this group with daring me to do anything. "What's the one thing about marriage that nobody tells you before you do it?" Emma asked. I looked at Jenna, who was watching me with raised eyebrows and a slight smile. "How much of yourself you lose," I said. "How you wake up one day and realize you've been playing a character for so long, you forgot who you actually are." The room went quiet for a moment. Jenna's smile faltered. "Jesus, Alex," Mark said. "Way to kill the mood." "You asked for truth," I said. The game picked up again, but there was an edge to it now, a current of something darker running underneath the laughter. The dares got bolder, the truths more personal. Sophie admitted she'd kissed her personal trainer. Tom confessed he'd been in love with his best friend's wife in college. Claire revealed she'd never had an orgasm with a partner. By the time it came back around to Jenna, we were all several drinks deeper, and the inhibitions had worn thin. "Truth or dare?" Jason asked, his voice lower than before. "Dare?" Jenna said. "Always dare." Jason was quiet for a long moment, and I could see something calculating in his expression. "I dare you to spend 10 minutes alone with me in the bedroom, just talking." The room went silent. I felt like I'd been punched in the stomach. "Jason," Claire said quietly. "What?" he said, spreading his hands innocently. "It's just talking. 10 minutes, what's the big deal?" Jenna was looking at me, and I could see the challenge in her eyes. "What do you think, honey?" It's just a game, right? Every instinct I had was screaming at me to shut this down, to be the jealous husband and give them all something to talk about for weeks. But I also knew that's exactly what they expected, what they wanted. Poor Alex, so insecure about his hot wife. "It's your choice," I said, surprised by how steady my voice sounded. Jenna smiled. 10 minutes, she said to Jason. Just talking. They stood up together, and I watched my wife walk toward our bedroom with my best friend. The others were trying to make conversation, but I could feel their eyes on me, waiting for a reaction. "She's just calling his bluff," Emma said quietly beside me. "She won't actually do anything." But I could hear them laughing behind the closed door, and I knew Emma was wrong. The 10 minutes felt like an hour. When they finally came back, Jenna's hair was messed up, and Jason had lipstick on his neck, the same shade Jenna had been wearing. They were both trying too hard to look casual, and the room erupted in nervous laughter and knowing looks. "Well," Sophie asked, "how was your talk?" "Very enlightening," Jason said, not looking at me. I felt something break inside me. Some last threat of trust or love or basic human decency. But instead of exploding, instead of giving them the scene they were clearly expecting, I just smiled. "My turn," I said. "Emma, truth or dare?" Emma looked surprised to be called on. Dare, I guess?" "I dare you to kiss me," I said. "Really. Kiss me for as long as you want." Now it was Jenna's turn to go pale. "Alex, that's not—" "It's just a game," I said, using her own words. "What's the big deal?" Emma was looking at me with something I couldn't quite read. Then she moved closer, put her hand on my cheek, and kissed me. It wasn't like the performative nonsense Jason and Jenna had just pulled. It was real and soft, and full of something that had been building for years without me realizing it. When she finally pulled away, her eyes were bright. "I've wanted to do that for a very long time," she whispered. The room exploded. Jenna was on her feet, her face flushed with anger. "What the hell, Alex? That's my sister!" "And Jason's my best friend," I said, standing up. "But that didn't stop you, did it? That was different. That was just what? Just a game." I looked around the room at all their faces, these people who'd been watching my marriage crumble like it was entertainment. "You know what? You're right. It is just a game. And I think I'm finally learning how to play." I held out my hand to Emma. "Want to get out of here?" She took it without hesitation. As we walked toward the door, I could hear Jenna behind us, her voice rising with panic and rage. "Alex, you can't just leave. We need to talk about this." I turned back one last time, looking at my wife standing there with her perfect hair messed up and my best friend's lipstick still on her lips. "Game over," I said, and walked out into the night with her sister. Emma's hotel room was small and impersonal, the kind of place that smelled like industrial carpet cleaner and other people's regrets. We sat on opposite ends of the bed, the weight of what had just happened settling between us like a third person. "I should probably apologize," Emma said, staring at her hands, "for what I said back there about wanting to kiss you." "Should you?" I asked. "Apologize, I mean." She looked up at me then, and I could see years of carefully hidden feelings in her expression. "I don't know. Should you apologize for asking me to?" My phone had been buzzing constantly since we left the house, text after text from Jenna, each one more frantic than the last. I finally turned it face down on the nightstand. "She's going to be furious," Emma said. "She already is furious. Did you see her face when we left? I mean, really furious. The kind that lasts. She's not used to losing." I thought about that for a moment. Jenna had always been the winner in our relationship, the one who got what she wanted through charm or manipulation or simple force of personality. I'd been the grateful participant, the supporting character in her story. Maybe it's time she learned, I said. Emma's phone rang, and we both knew who it was before she looked at the screen. "It's her," she said. "Don't answer it." "She's my sister, Alex. I can't just—" "She just slept with my best friend in our bedroom while I sat in the living room listening. I think we can let her wait a few hours for an explanation." The words came out harsher than I'd intended, but they felt good to say. Emma stared at me for a moment, then declined the call. "You really think they—" "Come on, Emma, you saw them when they came back. Her hair, his neck. What do you think they were doing in there for 10 minutes? She was quiet for a long time. "Then, I'm sorry. I know you loved her." "Did I?" I asked, and realized I genuinely didn't know the answer. Or did I just love the idea of her? The way she made me feel like I'd won something I didn't deserve. "You deserve better than that." "Do I?" "I'm 41 years old, Emma. I work in IT. I drive a Honda, and I just walked out on my marriage because of a party game. I'm not exactly a catch." Emma turned to face me fully. "You want to know what I see when I look at you? I see someone who's been slowly disappearing for years, trying to make himself smaller so everyone else can feel bigger. I see someone who's forgotten how funny he is, how smart, how kind. Jenna didn't make you lucky, Alex. You made her lucky. And she never appreciated it." Before I could respond, my phone lit up with an incoming call. Jenna's face filled the screen. A photo from our anniversary dinner last year when we'd still been pretending everything was fine. "I should probably take this," I said. Emma nodded. "I'll give you some privacy." "No," I said, surprising myself. "Stay. I'm done with secrets." I answered the call and put it on speaker. "Alex, thank God. Where are you? We need to talk." "I'm with Emma," I said, at her hotel. There was a pause. "Both of you are there together?" "Yes, Jenna, together." "Like you and Jason were together in our bedroom." "That's different, and you know it." "That was just what?" "Just a game." "You keep saying that, but I don't think you know what it means." "I want you to come home now. We can work this out." I looked at Emma, who was watching me with an expression I couldn't quite read. "I don't think we can," I said. "Of course we can." "Alex, you're being ridiculous. It was a stupid dare. It didn't mean anything." "But what you did with my sister, what I did with your sister was honest," I said. "Maybe the first honest thing I've done in years." "Honest? You call making out with my sister honest?" "I call it playing by your rules. You said it was just a game, remember? You said it didn't mean anything, so either it means something or it doesn't. You don't get to have it both ways." The line was quiet for so long I thought she'd hung up. "Then I want to talk to Emma." I looked at Emma, who shook her head. "She doesn't want to talk to you right now," I said. "She's my sister, and I was your husband. Past tense, because whatever we had, you killed it tonight. Alex, please don't do this. Don't throw away 15 years over one stupid mistake." "One mistake?" "Jenna, this wasn't a mistake. This was a choice. You looked me in the eye and chose to humiliate me in front of our friends. You chose to go into our bedroom with Jason. You chose to come back and then act like I was crazy for being upset about it. I wasn't. We didn't. Don't lie to me. Not now. We're way past that." Another long silence. When she spoke again, her voice was different, colder. "Fine. You want to play games? Let's play games, but don't come crying to me when you realize what you've given up." The line went dead. Emma and I sat in the quiet for a moment, the weight of what had just happened settling over us. "She's going to make this ugly," Emma said finally. Probably she's going to turn everyone against you. Tell them you're the one who cheated, that you seduced me. Let her try. Alex, I'm serious. You don't know what she's capable of when she's angry. But I was starting to think I did. The Jenna I'd been married to for 15 years was charming and fun and the life of every party. But underneath all that charm was something harder, something that didn't like to lose. I'd seen glimpses of it over the years. The way she talked about coworkers who crossed her, the casual cruelty she could deploy when someone threatened her position as the center of attention. What are you thinking? Emma asked. I'm thinking, I said slowly, that maybe it's time I stopped playing defense. My phone buzzed with a text message, not from Jenna this time, but from Jason. Dude, what the hell? Call me. I showed Emma the message. She read it and shook her head. Are you going to respond? Eventually, I said, but not tonight. Tonight, I want to do something I haven't done in years. What's that? I want to have an honest conversation with someone who actually gives a damn about me. Emma smiled, and for the first time all evening, it felt real. I can do that. We talked until 3 a.m. about everything and nothing, about the people we'd been before we got lost in other people's expectations, about the choices we'd made and the ones we wished we could unmake. Emma told me about her marriage to David, how they'd become strangers living parallel lives, how she'd been thinking about divorce for months but hadn't found the courage to pull the trigger. I told her about the slow death of my marriage to Jenna, how I'd watched myself disappear one compromise at a time until I wasn't sure who I was anymore. How tonight had been the first time in years I'd felt like myself. What happens now? She asked, as the sky outside started to lighten. I don't know, I said. But for the first time in a long time, I'm not afraid to find out. When I finally got home Saturday morning, Jenna was waiting in the kitchen with a cup of coffee and an expression I recognized from her worst sales meetings, the look of someone preparing to negotiate from a position of weakness. We need to talk, she said. Yes, I agreed. We do. But before we could start, my phone rang. Sophie Henderson, probably calling to get the gossip firsthand. I declined the call, but it immediately rang again. Mark this time. PP morning, Jenna said acidly. The phone rang a third time. Tom Bradley, then Claire, then Jason. Jesus, I muttered, turning the phone off entirely. They're all talking about last night, Jenna said. About what we did. What you did. Good, I said, surprising her. Let them talk. Good, Alex. These are our friends, our social circle, our reputation. Our reputation? I laughed, and it came out harder than I'd intended. Jenna, you slept with another man in our bedroom while our friends watched and waited to see how I'd react. What reputation do you think we have left? I didn't sleep with him. Then what did you do exactly? What did you do in that room for 10 minutes? She was quiet for a moment, and I could see her calculating, trying to figure out how much truth she could afford to tell. We kissed, she said finally. That's all. We kissed and talked and maybe got a little carried away, but we didn't. You got carried away? Yes. In our bedroom? Yes. While I sat in the living room with your sister and our friends, listening to you laugh, Alex. And then you came back looking like you'd been mauled, and you expected me to just smile and pretend it was all part of the game? It was part of the game. No, I said it was part of something else entirely, something you and Jason have been building up to for months, maybe years. Last night was just the first time you had an excuse to act on it. The coffee mug slipped from her hands and shattered on the kitchen floor, sending ceramic shards and hot coffee across the tiles. That's not true, she said, but her voice was shaky now. Isn't it? Tell me, Jenna, when did you and Jason start texting each other? When did the conversations turn from friendly to flirty to whatever they are now?
We're friends, Alex. We've always been friends.
Show me your phone.
What?
Your phone. Show me your text history with Jason.
If it's all innocent, if I'm just being a paranoid husband, then show me. She stared at me for a long moment, and I could see the exact second she realized she was trapped. I don't have to prove anything to you, she said. No, I agreed. You don't. But your refusal to try tells me everything I need to know. I walked past her toward the stairs, crunching ceramic under my feet. Where are you going? She called after me to pack a bag. I said, I'm staying at a hotel for a few days while I figure out what comes next.
Alex, wait, please. We can work this out. I'll cut off contact with Jason. I'll do whatever you want. Just don't leave.
I stopped halfway up the stairs and turned back to look at her. She was standing in the middle of the broken coffee mug, tears streaming down her face. And for a moment, I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. The problem isn't Jason, I said. The problem is that you're the kind of person who would do what you did last night and then try to convince me I'm crazy for being upset about it. The problem is that I've been making excuses for that kind of person for 15 years, and I'm tired.
So that's it? You're just giving up?
No, I said for the first time in our marriage. I'm not giving up. I'm fighting back. The Marriott downtown wasn't much, but it was mine. For the first time in years, I woke up in a space that didn't require me to be anyone other than exactly who I was. No performance, no careful navigation of someone else's mood, no walking on eggshells around topics that might set off an argument. It had been 3 days since the party, and my phone had become a constant source of entertainment. The group chat that had been created for planning Jenna's birthday last month had exploded into a soap opera of gossip, speculation, and carefully worded attempts to get information from me. Sophie, Alex, hope you're doing okay. Call if you need to talk. Mark, dude, what's the real story here? Jenna's saying you lost your mind. Tom, this is crazy, man. You guys seem so solid. Claire, I feel terrible about last night. I never thought the game would go that far. The only person who hadn't reached out was Jason, which told me everything I needed to know about where his loyalties lay. I was sitting in the hotel restaurant, reading the messages over coffee and eggs when my phone rang. Unknown number. Alex Harper, I answered. Mr. Harper, this is Detective Martinez with the Riverside Heights Police Department. I need to ask you a few questions about a vandalism report we received. My blood went cold. Vandalism? Someone threw a brick through the window of Pierce Reilly last night. The owner, Jason Pierce, seems to think you might have information about who could have done it. I almost laughed. Almost. Detective, I've been staying at the Marriott downtown since Saturday morning. I have receipts, keycard records, probably security footage if you need it. I haven't been anywhere near Jason's office. Can you think of anyone who might want to damage Mr. Pierce's property? Anyone who might have a grudge against him? Well, I said he did sleep with my wife 3 days ago, but I imagine that's not the kind of grudge you're looking for. There was a pause. I'm sorry. What? Nothing illegal, Detective. Just good old-fashioned adultery. But if Jason thinks I'm running around town throwing bricks through windows, he doesn't know me very well. Where were you last night between 1:00 p.m. and 2 a.m.? Right here at the hotel. I ordered room service around 9:30, watched a movie, went to sleep around midnight. Like I said, you can check the records. We will. Thank you for your time, Mr. Harper. After he hung up, I sat staring at my phone. Jason was escalating this, trying to paint me as the unstable husband who couldn't handle his wife's infidelity. The smart thing would be to lay low, hire a lawyer, play defense until the divorce was finalized. But I was tired of being smart. I was tired of playing defense. I called Emma. How are you holding up? She asked, instead of hello.
Someone threw a brick through Jason's office window last night. He thinks I did it.
Did you?
No, but I'm starting to wish I had. Emma laughed, and the sound of it made something in my chest loosen.
Where are you?
Hotel downtown. Same hotel, actually, different floor. I extended my stay.
Why?
Because my sister is calling me every hour trying to get me to convince you to come home, and I needed some space to think. What floor? 7. I'm on 5. Want to get lunch? I thought you'd never ask. We met in the lobby 20 minutes later. Emma looked better than she had Saturday morning. Rested, less stressed, wearing jeans and a sweater that made her look younger than her 36 years. So she said as we walked toward the restaurant,
What's the plan?
The plan, Alex? You're not the kind of person who just accepts being painted as the villain. You're too smart for that, and you're too angry. So, what's the plan? I thought about that as we were seated. Emma was right. I was angry. Angrier than I'd been in years, maybe ever. But it wasn't the hot, explosive kind of anger that led to thrown bricks and vandalized property. It was something colder, more calculating. I want to know the truth, I said finally. All of it. How long this thing with Jason has been going on, what exactly they've been doing, whether this was just an emotional affair or something more. And then I want everyone to know it, too. Emma leaned back in her chair.
That's dangerous territory, Alex. Jenna's not going to just roll over and let you destroy her reputation.
She should have thought of that before she destroyed our marriage.
I'm serious. She's already telling people you're having a breakdown, that you seduced me to get back at her for some imaginary slight. If you start digging into her private life, she's going to hit back twice as hard.
Let her try. Our server came by to take our order, and we sat in silence for a moment after she left. Emma was studying my face like she was trying to solve a puzzle.
You've changed, she said finally.
How so?
Saturday morning, you were hurt, betrayed, angry, but still fundamentally the same guy who's been trying to keep everyone happy for 15 years. Now you look like someone who stopped caring what people think.
Maybe I have. That's not necessarily a bad thing, but it's dangerous. When people stop caring what others think, they sometimes stop caring about consequences, too. I thought about that. Was she right? Had I crossed some line where I was willing to burn everything down just to watch it burn? What would you do, I asked, if you were in my position?
I don't know, but I know what I wouldn't do. I wouldn't let them rewrite history. I wouldn't let them make you the villain in a story where you're the victim.
So, you think I should fight back? I think you should protect yourself. There's a difference. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. I almost ignored it, but something made me check.
Alex, this is Claire. I need to talk to you. Can we meet? There are things you need to know about Jason and Jenna. Things that happened before Friday night.
I showed Emma the message. She read it twice, then looked up at me.
That's interesting timing, she said. You think it's a trap?
I think Claire's the kind of person who hates conflict, but loves being the one with important information. If she's reaching out, it's because she knows something that's eating her alive. I typed back, when and where. The response came immediately. Coffee shop on Main Street, 1 hour. Come alone. She wants to meet in an hour. I told Emma, are you going?
Yes. Be careful. If Jenna put her up to this, then I'll know pretty quickly. Claire's not a good enough actress to pull off a long con.
Emma reached across the table and touched my hand.
Promise me something.
What?
Promise me you won't do anything that can't be undone. Whatever Claire tells you, whatever you find out about Jenna and Jason, don't let it turn you into someone you'll hate when this is all over.
I looked down at her hand on mine, small and warm and real. I promise, I said, and meant it.
But as I drove toward Main Street an hour later, I could feel something dark and hungry stirring in my chest. For 15 years, I'd been the nice guy, the understanding husband, the one who always took the high road. And where had it gotten me? Maybe it was time to try a different approach. The coffee shop was busy with the lunch crowd, but I spotted Claire immediately. She was sitting in a corner booth, nervously shredding a napkin and checking her phone every few seconds. When she saw me, she waved me over with the kind of urgency that suggested this wasn't going to be a pleasant conversation. "Thank you for coming," she said as I sat down. "I wasn't sure you would." "What's this about, Claire?" She looked around nervously, like she expected Jason or Jenna to materialize from behind the espresso machine. "It's about Friday night. About what happened between Jason and your wife." "What about it?" "It wasn't the first time." The words hit me like a physical blow. I'd suspected, of course, but hearing it confirmed was different. "How long?" I asked. "I don't know exactly, but I know it's been going on for months, maybe longer." "How do you know?" Claire pulled out her phone and scrolled through her photos. Jason's not as careful as he thinks he is. "Look." She showed me a picture from someone's birthday party back in March. In the background, barely visible, were Jason and Jenna standing close together by a kitchen counter. His hand was on her lower back, and she was leaning into him in a way that was definitely not platonic. "I didn't think anything of it at the time," Claire said. "But after Friday night, I started remembering things, little moments, looks, the way they always seem to end up talking to each other at parties." She swiped to another photo, this one from a barbecue in May. Jason and Jenna were sitting on the same side of a picnic table, their legs touching, both of them laughing at something on Jason's phone while the rest of us were focused on the grill. "There are more," Claire said. "And it's not just photos, it's text messages." "You've seen their text messages, Jason's. Anyway, he left his phone on my kitchen counter last weekend while he was in the shower. A message came in from someone named Jay with a heart emoji. I thought it was weird, so I looked. She pulled up a screenshot she'd apparently taken. The message thread was mostly innocuous. Plans for coffee, complaints about work, inside jokes. But there was an intimacy to it that made my stomach turn. These weren't the texts of casual friends. "There's one from last month that really bothered me," Claire said, scrolling down here. The message was from Jenna. "Alex is working late again. House is empty. If you want to come over and help me with the yard work." Jason's response, "On my way. I'll bring my tools." I confronted him about it. Claire said he said they really were working on your garden, that I was being paranoid. But looking at these pictures now, they weren't working on the garden, I said quietly. "I'm sorry, Alex. I should have said something sooner. I should have told you what I suspected." I stared at the photos, at the evidence of my wife's betrayal laid out in digital clarity. Part of me wanted to be angry at Claire for keeping this secret, but mostly I just felt tired. "Why are you telling me now?" I asked. "Because Jason called me yesterday. He wanted me to talk to you, to convince you that Friday night was just a stupid mistake that got out of hand. He said Jenna was worried you were going to do something drastic and that everyone needed to help calm you down. And I realized he was asking me to lie for him, to help him cover up something that's been going on for months. And I couldn't do it." Claire reached across the table and touched my arm. "I know this hurts, but you deserve to know the truth." "Can you send me those photos?" She hesitated. "What are you going to do with them?" "I don't know yet, but I'm tired of being the only one in this situation who doesn't have all the facts." She nodded and forwarded the screenshots to my phone. "Alex, be careful. Jason's been talking to people, trying to control the narrative. He's telling everyone you're unstable, that you attacked him Friday night." "I never touched him." "I know, but that's not what he's saying." I thanked Claire and left the coffee shop with my head spinning. The evidence was damning, but it also raised more questions than it answered. How long had this really been going on? How many times had they been together in my house while I was at work? How many of our friends knew and said nothing?
My phone rang as I was walking back to my car.
Emma, how did it go?
She asked. It's worse than I thought. A lot worse.
Do you want to talk about it?
Yes, but not over the phone. Are you still at the hotel?
Yes, room 712.
I'll be there in 20 minutes. As I drove back downtown, I could feel that dark hunger growing stronger. Jenna and Jason had made me look like a fool, and they'd done it with the help of people I'd considered friends. They'd been laughing at me for months, maybe years. But I wasn't laughing now, and by the time I was done, neither would they. Emma's hotel room was identical to mine, but somehow felt warmer. Maybe it was the way she'd arranged her things, or maybe it was just her presence, but walking in felt like stepping into a sanctuary.
You look like you've seen a ghost,
she said, closing the door behind me. Worse, I've seen the truth. I showed her the photos Claire had shared, watched her face grow darker with each one. When I got to the text messages, she actually swore under her breath.
That bastard, she said. And that's my sister sending those messages?
I'm sorry. I know this puts you in an impossible position. Emma sat heavily on the bed.
No, it doesn't. Jenna made her choice. She's been making it for months, apparently.
Claire thinks there might be more. Other evidence, other people who know.
What are you thinking?
I was thinking about a lot of things. About the way Jason had smirked when he dared Jenna to go into the bedroom. About the way Jenna had looked at me afterward, like she was daring me to do something about it. About the years of small humiliations and casual dismissals that had led to this moment. I'm thinking it's time to stop playing defense, I said. Meaning Jason wants to paint me as the unstable husband who can't handle his wife's infidelity. Fine. Let's see how he handles some instability of his own. Emma studied my face.
What are you planning?
Jason has an open house this weekend. Big property, lots of potential buyers. His boss will be there. It's the kind of event where his reputation matters. Alex, I'm not going to do anything illegal. I'm not going to hurt anyone. But I am going to make sure the truth comes out. How? I pulled up Jason's real estate company website on my phone. Sure enough, there was the listing. $1 million house in the hills. Open house Saturday from 2 to 5 p.m. Jason's smiling face was prominently displayed as the listing agent. I'm going to tell people what really happened Friday night. All of it with evidence. That's social suicide for all of you. Maybe, but right now I'm the only one suffering the consequences of their choices. Time to spread the wealth. Emma was quiet for a long moment.
Then what do you need me to do?
You don't have to do anything. This is my fight.
Alex, that woman has been lying to you for months, maybe years. She's been using your house for her affair while you were at work.
She humiliated you in front of your friends, and then tried to make you feel crazy for being upset about it. This isn't just your fight anymore.
What are you saying?
I'm saying I have some evidence of my own. Things Jenna told me about her marriage, about you, about what she really thinks of the life you've built together. Things she probably doesn't remember telling me because she was drunk.
Emma, she called you boring, Alex. She said marriage to you was like being married to a golden retriever.
Loyal and harmless, but not particularly exciting. She said she stayed because you were safe, not because she loved you. The words hit harder than I'd expected. Not because they were surprising, but because they confirmed what I'd suspected for years. When did she tell you this?
Christmas, 2 years ago.
You were in the kitchen making coffee, and she was complaining about how predictable you were, how you never surprised her anymore, never made her feel alive. And you didn't think to mention this before. What was I supposed to say? Your sister thinks you're boring? I figured it was just drunk talk, the kind of thing married people say when they're frustrated. I didn't know she was actively looking for excitement elsewhere. My phone buzzed with another text from the group chat. This time it was Mark. Heard about the brick through Jason's window. Crazy times. Hope everyone stays safe.
They're all talking about it, I said, showing Emma the message. Jason's making sure everyone knows I'm the prime suspect. Are you? The police already cleared me. But Jason doesn't care about facts, he cares about narrative. So change the narrative. I looked at her, this woman who'd been quietly watching my marriage implode for years, who'd finally found the courage to tell me how she really felt. You're sure about this? Once we do this, there's no going back. There was no going back. The moment Jenna walked into that bedroom with Jason. Everything since then has just been damage control. Okay, I said. Let's burn it all down. Saturday morning, I drove to the office supply store and made copies of everything. The photos Claire had shared, screenshots of the group chat messages, even a timeline I'd put together of suspicious incidents over the past year. Things that had seemed innocent at the time, but looked different in context. The open house was in Riverside Heights' most exclusive neighborhood, the kind of place where million-dollar homes were considered starter properties. I parked across the street and watched as potential buyers began arriving. Young couples with more money than sense. Older investors looking for their next flip. A few genuine families hoping to find their dream home. Jason was in full sales mode, greeting everyone with his practiced smile and firm handshake. He was wearing his best suit and his most charming persona, the version of himself that had convinced dozens of clients to trust him with the biggest purchase of their lives. I waited until the house was full before making my move. Alex, Jason's voice carried across the foyer when he saw me. What are you doing here? Looking at houses, I said, loudly enough for everyone to hear. My wife and I are getting divorced, so I need a new place. The conversations around us quieted. Nothing killed a party atmosphere like unexpected drama. Maybe this isn't the best time, Jason said, his smile faltering. Oh, I think it's the perfect time, especially since you're the reason I need a new house. A middle-aged woman in expensive clothes stepped closer, clearly sensing gossip. Excuse me? This is Jason Pierce, I said, gesturing toward him like a game show host revealing a prize. Successful real estate agent, charming guy, and the man who's been sleeping with my wife for the past 6 months. The room went dead silent. Alex, Jason said, his voice tight with warning. You need to leave. Now. Do I? This is a public open house, isn't it? I'm the public. I pulled out my phone and opened the photos Claire had shared. Would anyone like to see some evidence? I've got pictures, text messages, a whole timeline of their affair. It's really quite thorough. You're having a breakdown, Jason said, but his voice was shaky now. Everyone can see that. Am I? Let me ask you something, Jason. When you dared my wife to spend 10 minutes alone with you in our bedroom last Friday, was that part of your breakdown too? Or was that just the first time you decided to sleep with her in front of an audience? A young couple near the door exchanged glances and quietly left. Others were pulling out their phones, either to call someone or to start recording. I think we should all give these gentlemen some privacy, said an older man who was clearly Jason's boss. No privacy needed, I said cheerfully. This is all public information now. Jason's made sure of that by filing a false police report claiming I vandalized his office. So, let's make sure everyone has all the facts. I held up my phone, showing the photo of Jason and Jenna at the March birthday party. This was taken 4 months ago. Notice how his hand is on her lower back. That's not how you touch your best friend's wife unless you're sleeping with her. Alex, stop, Jason said, but he was backing toward the kitchen now. Oh, we're just getting started. Here's a text from my wife to Jason last month. Alex is working late again. House is empty if you want to come over and help me with the yard work. Followed by his response. On my way. I'll bring my tools. The older man, who was clearly Jason's boss, stepped forward. Mr. Pierce, perhaps you should handle this situation privately. Great idea, I said. Jason, why don't you tell everyone here exactly what tools you brought to help with my wife's yard work? Because I can tell you the garden looks exactly the same as it did 6 months ago. Jason's face was red now, a combination of embarrassment and rage. You're insane, he said.
Everyone can see you're having a complete breakdown. Maybe I am, I agreed. But I'm having it with evidence. What's your excuse? That's when Jason made his mistake. Instead of continuing to back away, instead of trying to de-escalate, he stepped toward me with his hands clenched into fists. You need to shut your mouth and get out of here before I make you, he said. The room held its breath. Are you threatening me, Jason? In front of all these witnesses? Because that seems like the kind of thing someone who's definitely not guilty would do. He took another step toward me, and I could see the exact moment he lost control. Years of being the smooth-talking closer, the guy who always had the right answer, and now he was being humiliated in front of his boss and potential clients. You want to know the truth? He said, his voice rising. Your wife came on to me. She's been throwing herself at me for months because she's bored out of her mind with you. You want to blame someone? Blame yourself for being such a pathetic excuse for a husband that your own wife had to look elsewhere for attention. The silence that followed was deafening. There it is, I said quietly. The truth. Finally. I looked around the room at all the faces staring at us, shocked, embarrassed, fascinated despite themselves. Ladies and gentlemen, you've just witnessed Jason Pierce admitting to an affair with a married woman. I'd think carefully before trusting him with your real estate needs. After all, if he'll betray his best friend, what do you think he'll do to a client? Jason's boss stepped between us. That's enough. Both of you need to leave, now. Of course, I said, but before I go, let me just say this. Jason, you and my wife deserve each other. You're both the kind of people who think other people's feelings are just obstacles to getting what you want. I hope you're very happy together. I walked toward the door, then stopped and turned back. Oh, and Jason, next time you want to file a false police report, maybe make sure you have an actual suspect. The security footage from my hotel shows I was nowhere near your office when that window got broken. But I'm sure you'll figure out who your real enemies are soon enough. I left him standing there in his expensive suit, surrounded by the wreckage of his professional reputation, and drove home with a smile on my face for the first time in a week. But I wasn't done yet, not even close. The video was online by Sunday morning. Someone at the open house had recorded Jason's confession and uploaded it to Facebook with the caption, "Local real estate agent admits to affair at his own open house." By noon, it had been shared 300 times. I was sitting in my hotel room watching the comments roll in when Emma knocked on my door. "You've seen it?" she asked when I let her in. "Hard to miss. Jason's having quite the weekend." She sat down next to me on the bed and scrolled through the comments on her phone. Sophie Henderson shared it with the caption, "This is what happens when Truth or Dare goes too far. She's getting roasted in the comments." Good. She was one of the people laughing loudest when Jenna came out of that bedroom. "Alex, there's something else. Jenna called me this morning, and she wants to meet all three of us. She says she's ready to tell the truth about everything, but only if you agree to keep it private." I laughed. "Private? Emma, the whole thing is already public. Jason confessed to sleeping with her in front of 20 strangers yesterday." "I know, but she's panicking. Her boss saw the video. Apparently someone from her company was at that open house." "Tough break. Alex, she's my sister. I don't like what she did, but I don't want to see her completely destroyed either." I looked at Emma, this woman who'd been caught in the middle of a war she didn't start, and felt a pang of guilt. "What do you want me to do? Meet with her? Hear what she has to say? If nothing else, maybe you can get some closure." "Where does she want to meet? Our house? Your house? Whatever." "She says she needs to get some things anyway." I thought about it. Part of me wanted to let Jenna twist in the wind she'd created for herself. But Emma was right. I needed closure. I needed to hear Jenna admit what she'd done, not just to Jason in a moment of anger, but to me. "Okay," I said. "But you're coming with me, Alex. I'm not being alone with her. Not anymore. If she wants to have this conversation, it happens with a witness." We drove to the house in separate cars, Emma following behind me like a backup plan I hoped I wouldn't need. The neighborhood looked the same as always. Perfectly manicured lawns, expensive cars and driveways. The kind of suburban paradise that was supposed to represent success and happiness. Jenna's car was already in the driveway. She was waiting in the kitchen, sitting at the island where we'd eaten breakfast together for 15 years. She looked terrible. Exhausted, makeup-free, wearing sweatpants and an old college t-shirt I hadn't seen in years. "Thank you for coming," she said when Emma and I walked in. "This is your show," I said. "Talk." She took a shaky breath. "I'm sorry. I know that doesn't mean much now, but I need you to know that I'm sorry. For all of it." "For which part? The affair or getting caught for hurting you? For lying? For making you feel like you were crazy when you suspected something was wrong?" "How long?" I asked. 4 months since March." "The birthday party?" "Yes, in this house." She nodded, not meeting my eyes. "When you were working late or traveling for conferences?" "Never when you were here." "How many times, Alex? How many times did you sleep with him in our bed while I was at work?" Emma touched my arm gently, a reminder to keep my voice level. 6 times, Jenna whispered. "Maybe 7. "Maybe 7. I laughed and it came out bitter. "You lost count." "It didn't mean anything. It was just..." "Just what? Just intimacy? Just excitement? Just something to do when you were bored with your boring husband?" Jenna's head snapped up. "Emma told you about that. She told me a lot of things about how you really feel about our marriage, about me, about the life we built together." "I was drunk when I said those things. I didn't mean them." "Which things? The part where you called me boring, or the part where you said I was like a golden retriever?" "Alex, please. I know I screwed up. I know I hurt you. But we can fix this. We can go to counseling. We can work through it. Can we work through the fact that you've been lying to me for months? Can we work through the fact that you humiliated me in front of our friends and then tried to make me feel guilty for being upset about it?" "It was just a game that got out of hand." "No, I said it was the culmination of an affair you'd been having for months. It was you deciding you didn't need to hide it anymore because you thought I was too weak to do anything about it." Jenna was crying now, but I felt nothing. No sympathy, no desire to comfort her. No instinct to fix the situation like I'd been doing for years. "What do you want from me?" she asked. "I want you to admit what you did. All of it. Not just to me, but to everyone." "I can't do that. Alex, my job." "Your job? Jenna, there's a video of Jason confessing to the affair that's been shared by half the town. Your job is already in jeopardy." "That's different. That was Jason being stupid." "If I admit to it too, if you admit to it too, then maybe people will respect you for finally telling the truth instead of trying to spin your way out of it." Emma spoke up for the first time since we'd arrived. "Jenna, you need to take responsibility for what you've done. Not just to Alex, but to yourself." "Easy for you to say," Jenna snapped. "You're not the one whose life is falling apart." "No, I'm the one whose sister destroyed her marriage and then tried to drag me into covering it up." "I never asked you to cover anything up. You asked me to convince Alex to come home. You asked me to tell him it was all a misunderstanding. What do you call that?" Jenna was quiet for a long moment. When she spoke again, her voice was small. "I call it being desperate." "Desperate enough to lie," I said. "Desperate enough to cheat. Desperate enough to try to make me look like the villain."
but not desperate enough to actually change. What do you mean? I mean, you're still trying to control the narrative. You're still trying to find a way to come out of this looking like the victim instead of the person who chose to have an affair. That's not true, isn't it? You called this meeting to get me to agree to keep things private. You want to contain the damage, not actually face the consequences of what you've done. Jenna stood up abruptly.
Fine. You want me to face consequences? I'll face them. I'll tell my boss what happened.
I'll post on Facebook about the affair. I'll take out an ad in the newspaper if that's what you want. But don't pretend this is about justice or truth or any of that. This is about revenge. You're right. I said, it is about revenge. You humiliated me, so I humiliated you back. You destroyed our marriage, so I destroyed your reputation. You made me look like a fool, so I returned the favor. And how does that make you better than me? It doesn't, but it makes us even. The silence stretched between us like a chasm. Finally, Emma stood up.
I think we're done here, she said.
Jenna looked at her sister with something like betrayal in her eyes.
You're really choosing him over me? I'm choosing honesty over lies. I'm choosing the person who's been hurt over the person who did the hurting. If that means I'm choosing him over you, then yes, he's not perfect either. You know, he's passive-aggressive and stubborn, and he holds grudges forever. Maybe, Emma said,
but he didn't cheat on you. Jenna's face crumpled, and for a moment I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. I need you both to leave, she said. I need to pack some things and figure out what comes next. The house is in both our names, I said. You can stay as long as you want. I'm not coming back.
What about our things, our furniture, our photos? 15 years of keep it, all of it. I don't want anything that reminds me of this marriage. Alex, I'm done.
Jenna, with the fighting, with the drama, with trying to save something that died months ago when you decided Jason was more important than our marriage. I'm done. Emma and I walked toward the door together. As we reached it, Jenna called out one last time.
You'll regret this, she said. Both of you. When the novelty wears off and you realize what you've given up, you'll regret it.
I turned back to look at her one last time. This woman I'd loved for 15 years, sitting alone in the kitchen of the house we'd bought together when we still believed in forever. The only thing I regret, I said, is not walking away sooner. Outside, Emma and I stood by our cars for a moment, both of us processing what had just happened. How do you feel? She asked. Free, I said, and realized I meant it. For the first time in years, I feel free. What happens now? Now we figure out what comes next. Together, if you want. Emma smiled, and it was like watching the sun come out after a storm. I want good because I have a confession to make. What's that? I think I'm falling in love with you. Think? No. I know I'm falling in love with you. That's funny, she said, because I know I fell in love with you years ago. I was just waiting for you to catch up. I kissed her then, right there in the driveway of the house I'd shared with her sister. And it felt like the first honest thing I'd done in years. When we broke apart, Emma was laughing. What's so funny? I asked. I was just thinking about that party game, Truth or Dare. What about it? Next time someone asks me truth or dare, I'm definitely picking truth. It's so much simpler. No more games. No more games, she agreed. Just truth. 6 months later, Jenna and Jason's relationship imploded in spectacular fashion when she caught him cheating with another client.
The irony wasn't lost on anyone. Emma and I were living together by then, in a small apartment downtown that felt more like home than the house in Riverside Heights ever had. We were taking things slow, building something real instead of something convenient. The divorce was finalized on a Tuesday in October. I signed the papers in my lawyer's office, handed over my keys to the house, and walked out into the crisp fall air, feeling lighter than I had in years. Emma was waiting for me on the courthouse steps.
How does it feel to be a free man?
She asked. Like the best game I ever played, I said. And for the first time in my adult life, I was telling the complete truth.